time is 7:02. We'll call the October 23rd, 2023 Oak Park Board of Education regular meeting to order. Ms. Greer, would you please call the roll?
Clark.
Here.
Corcoran. Davis.
Here.
Elvin.
Here.
Hoda. Madison.
Here.
And Smith.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum. It's my understanding that Trustee Corcoran may not make it. She did let me know, so we will call that excused, and we will continue on with the agenda. We have recitation of the district mission and vision. Trustee Smith has it nice in hand and ready to go.
Yes. Vision, our inclusive learning community provides the best academic and social experiences by educating the whole child, one child at a time. Vision, cultivating visionary leaders and compassionate citizens to be engaged in the global community.
Thank you very much. The agenda, we're going to item number 3, approve the agenda. The agenda was distributed prior to today's meeting. It's our objective to pass a motion to approve the agenda by unanimous consent. Is there an objection to doing so? Hearing none, the agenda is hereby approved. We will go to item number 4, approval of consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion moved by Trustee Davis, supported by Trustee Smith. Any question on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Greer, please call the roll.
Clark.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Elvin.
Yes.
Madison.
Yes.
And Smith.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. And just for transparency's sake, relative to item 4C, I asked for the original contract signed by these individuals based on what we're doing to amend it. So I asked for the original just so I could have the whole picture. And I also indicated everybody wasn't happy, there's no reason why we couldn't have it. So,
Right.
but I just wanted, for transparency's sake, to let everybody know that I asked for it. So, okay, we're going to item 5, presentations, and we have 2 this evening. 5A is our Mayor Marion McClellan for the City of Oak Park. Mayor McClellan, the floor is yours. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Superintendent Abdullahard and President Elvin and trustees, thank you for having me, and staff. Delighted to be here. Just a shout out. I love the positive posts that I'm seeing on Facebook. I've noticed some from the preschool that's adorable, and some from the planetarium. And so all of that positive stuff, the world is so negative now. It's just a blessing to see the positive out there. Let's see. Oh, also, our public safety announced that they're working so well with your security staff. He mentioned Derek Falk and several other people, so I was pleased with that. It's toxic times, and we need to stay positive and believe in the best. I'd like to just mention a few things that the library has going that I didn't know about, so maybe you don't know about. The library partnered with Mrs. Cross and Mrs. Negron for a lunchtime book club that was started last year to foster a love of reading, engage in thoughtful conversations about books, and have a space around literary topics. The library bought books for the teen participants so they could build a home library. It was very impactful for the students that came, and we're really excited to be doing the program again. Another wonderful program is the after-school writing group. The library partnered with the nonprofit, a Detroit nonprofit, Inside Out Literary Arts, to offer a program for kids 13 to 18. They meet with professional writers each week, and they learn about writing and current events and write their own work. It follows the interests of the students. It's not like school. Participation gives teens access to free books of poetry, open mics, slam competitions, the annual Poetry Festival and scholarship opportunities for seniors. Citywide Poets is the name of the group. They're activists, poets, rappers, MCs, novelists, performers, and leaders. And I met with some of these guys last spring, and it was delightful. A planetarium, the library partners on community program with the planetarium director. Our youth librarian has a grant for eclipse-related materials, including glasses, which we're happy to share with school youth, and have been in the planning stages with the director, Mr. Mercer, to offer some eclipse-related programs to the community. I didn't know we had free after-school tutoring. I happen to know that tutoring can go $40 to $80 or more an hour, free tutoring, I think until December, and this is with a certified teacher from Eaton Academy. So spread the word, such a deal. Last week, we had an after-school teen Halloween party with snacks and games. Historically, the past 2 years, we've offered an after-school e-sports club in the cafe on Thursday for 45 minutes, staffed by one youth librarian and one recreation staff member. The library purchased additional games of interest to the students. It gives the kids a place to gather informally and do something to enjoy, to build community and offer recreation in a safe place. So that's a little good news. There is, okay. We have won a $500,000 grant to study extending improvements that we did on 9 Mile. So what we did on 9 Mile with putting the mini parks in and narrowing the streets and putting bike lanes, we heard people concerned about the safety of the kids, so we moved the 2 bike lanes to the same side and put up barriers to make sure that there's, all the kids are safe who are playing there. So it's been recognized. We won an award for what we did on 9 Mile Road. And the grant is to study how to extend what we did all the way through Ferndale and Hazel Park and all the way through the rest of Oak Park and Southfield up to Farmington, so that you could ride your bike all the way across Oakland County. So don't hold your breath, but it's in the planning stages, and I thought we were the poster child for how to do the 9 Mile right, so it was like a nice win. Let's see. So the 9 Mile improvements were put in. We got a grant, and they studied all of 9 Mile, and they recommend starting where we started, because there was a wide space between the street and the houses, big enough to put a park there, so that the people who came from Oregon to give us, help us plan what to do on 9 Mile said, okay, start here, and move down. If we had more money, if we were Birmingham, we would probably do it all together, but we're doing it piecemeal. Have hope, we're coming. We're coming down Coolidge. There is a pass-through park to the neighborhood in the back to welcome everybody, an easy way to get through, and that will be wheelchair accessible, handicapped accessible. We replaced the falling down fences on 9 Mile there, but also further down 9 Mile and on Greenfield. Have you noticed there were, on Greenfield, like across the street from Southfield, there were a whole bunch of sad-looking fences. One was brown, one was green, one was falling down, they all had weeds growing, it looked awful. And we put these taupe fences in to kind of raise the, you don't say, oh, what a beautiful fence, but it just looks better, cleaner. It's just part of Oak Park proudness that we're trying to develop. Because we did a lot on 9 Mile Road, a developer put up a transit-friendly development, 3 stories, So if there's somebody probably in their 20s who doesn't want to have a car, and they're right in front of a bus stop, right in front of a MOGO station, and they can get around without car payments and insurance and all of that. So and the developer said, if we didn't do all that improvement to 9 Mile, they wouldn't have purchased that property. So that's the plus for Oak Park. Then, that went up, so Sci-Fi Pizza has a Detroit location, and they're doing an Oak Park location on 9 Mile Road across from the apartments. And then just a little bit down, closer to Ferndale, but in Oak Park, Hanson's Repair Center went out of business, and they're putting like a bistro, fun bar, family-friendly, across the street. And all that is happening because economic development kind of gains momentum as it starts going. It affects all the home values, not just the ones like right there. In 2012, our taxable value for homes in Oak Park was $432 million. In 2022, it was $649 million, so we must be doing something right, because our homes are more valuable. I think you had heard that our police officers have body cameras to protect them and the residents. We are encouraging senior housing. We're trying to update our park system, add a bike trail to connect the 10 parks, and we're doing an event hub. The event hub is between the city hall and the library. So we started in 2022 and had a bunch of community meetings and asked people, as far as recreation, what would you like to see? And they had like pictures of things that you could pick, and people put stickers on what they wanted. And they did meetings at every park neighborhood. So people asked for an indoor pool and an indoor track, an indoor exercise place. They also wanted the parks spruced up because they are kind of sad. Some of our parks have been there without any tender loving care for quite a while. So there are 2 tax increases on the ballot. The first one is for parks, improving the parks, and the second one is to build a new community center with the pool and the whole thing. So the voters have a chance to decide if they want one or the other or both or none. And I just wanted to make clear that the school district has a proposal, as you well know, on the ballot, but that one is not a tax increase. And I put that flyer on my Facebook page and my Marion for Mayor Facebook page, and with the thing that this one is not a tax increase, support your local schools. So we're with you. For the new people, I'm an old retired school teacher, and go to all the March's Reading Month and Career Day and anything that I'm invited to at the schools, I'm there. I'm retired, my kids are grown, I've got more time than money, so I'm happy to support the schools. We are building, without anything that's on the ballot, an event hub. The event hub will have like a band shell so that we can have the concerts there. It will have an indoor part so we could have our very popular farmers market. We could have it more into the year because it would be protected and heated and all of that. That is coming from grants and is not part of the vote at all. We are raising money through grants. And there was, I think we have 5.7 million raised of the 8.33 million estimated cost. The state of Michigan gave us $2 million. The federal government gave us $1 million. Department of Natural Resources, $500,000 for that. Oakland Parks, $100,000 to build the walking trail around the park. We're having a memorial garden there for all the people that we lost to COVID in 2020 and after. We were hard hit. So blessings to all, and thank you for putting up with all of my chatter here. And if you have any questions or complaints about Oak Park, I'm your woman. Feel free to call. I give my cell number to everybody, and I don't mind taking calls. So stay in touch, and thank you so much. And please come and tell us what's new at the next council meeting. We would love to have you back. I think we started, and we were doing pretty well, and then it was Sean Whitehead's turn, and his wife had the nerve to have twins. So he didn't take his turn, and I didn't assign someone else, and that's sort of just, so we're back, keeping you updated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We'll go to item 5B, Fall 2023 District-wide Student Assessment. I assume Ms. Baptiste will be providing this update.
Good evening, members of the board, my cabinet friends, greater public. So this evening, I will be offering a presentation on our fall 2023 student data and assessments, and it's also, so it's going to include the first diagnostic of iReady. We have one in the fall every year, we have it again in February, and then at the end of the year, showcasing student growth. This particular presentation also has our proficiency scores. So MSTEP, PSAT, and SAT, that was taken in the spring of 2023. So the breakdown of this presentation is I'll give you context for district and state assessments, review of our district-wide data, and then next steps in impact.
That was me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Angel.
I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm in a hospital. Okay. I needed that though, I needed that. So, as you know, we have MyKIP goals, but not everybody may know in the greater public what MyKIP is all about. So it's the Michigan Continuous Improvement Programming and Planning, and we have 3 district-wide goals, which then funnel into our buildings. So our first one is on sense of belonging, our second one is on math, the third one is on ELA, and as the district revisits these goals, we're also going to be adding, attendance, other goals along the lines of areas of impact for students to be able to best educate whole child, right? So our MyKIP Goal 1 is for sense of belonging, and it's by June 2025. Student sense of belonging, as measured by the Panorama Survey, will reach 75% or higher across grades 3 through 12. And so I offered some historical information where our students, we brought the Panorama assessment in 21-22. We had a 47% baseline, then spring of 23, 44% baseline. And for fall of 2023, the window remains open because we opened the assessment window later on in the year, and so I didn't want to share the final results if we still have students taking that particular assessment. But I do have a snapshot of where we are today. MyKIP Goal 2 is by June 2025, 32% of all students grades 3 through 12, so an average of all of our districts where they meet proficiency. We want that at least 32%, which is actually the state average for proficiency. We would like to be at least at the state level and then move, beyond the state level ideally. So last year was 8%. The year before last it was 8%. We did have a slight decrease of 6% last year, spring of 2023. Our English MyKIP goal is that by June 2025, all of grades 3 through 12 students attending Oak Park schools will be proficient in EBRW, is evidence-based reading and writing. So those are those College Board assessments and SAT assessments. And ELA, MSTEP, PSAT, as I said, SAT. Last year we were at 15%. This year we're at 17%. And I just want this data to really be taken into consideration because it's including data from Oak Park Virtual, it's including data from Nova, which has our alternative students. Like, we count everybody to make sure like nobody is left unseen when we're talking about our data. Oak Park High School, and various things to take into consideration regarding enrollment. We factor in a variety of how we cohort our students in order to get the best assessment of where our students are in proficiency if they come to Oak Park once they're here. What are all the supports that we're putting in place? And that's also reflected in our data with as much transparency. So as the year advances, at this point where we're at is using data to plan forward. And at the same time checking in on student progress and celebrating and building upon student success. Specifically where it relates to iReady and our benchmark assessments, the 3 areas that we're focusing on is data chats around stretch growth, because we've seen that we've had a significant decrease in the number of students that were 2 or more or 3 or more grade levels below to 1 grade level below. So we're really focusing on stretch growth data, which is even if the student is below grade level, what do we have to do to bring them to grade level and beyond? And so this presentation is district level, but we have data presentations at the building level, and just last week iReady literacy consultations with each building to really focus on their data set is going to look different because it's per each building, which may be higher or lower depending on grade level. Additionally, domain deep dive. So under iReady, there are 6 criteria for reading in particular, but also having a focus on writing and where our students are in their writing abilities. And then in math, there's 4 domain areas. So really focusing on not just that the student took a diagnostic, but if you need support in geometry, what are those supports? If you need support in phonics, what are those supports and what resources are we providing? And then intentional use of the MyPath personalized learning platform, specifically grades K through 8. Next is our district-wide student growth goals. So at this time of the year, we share what our growth goal is, which we want to do it incrementally. So at this time, when a student takes that assessment, it's assessing how close they are to, we'll use 3rd grade, how close are they to being ready for 4th grade, right? So when they're coming into 3rd grade, they're not going to have all 3rd grade proficiency, so at this time of year their growth may not showcase as much as we would like it to. But by mid-year, we want to see that they're meeting 50% of their annual typical growth in either math or ELA, and by the end of the year, 100% of annual typical growth for both math and ELA, regardless of grade level, meaning that they're at grade level by the end of the year. The next portion of the presentation is just those data points. So as I said, the panorama assessment, the window is still open, and so the snapshot of where we're at is 63% of our students expressing, and this was spring 2023 data, so 63% of our students expressing sense of belonging and the change of that over time. I also like to share what that looks like nationwide. So in comparison, there's benchmark norm data with panorama assessments, all the schools that participate in that assessment, where do we lie as a school district? So we're at the 30th percentile on the subject matter of student sense of belonging, and we want to raise that number up. I'm getting into meat and potatoes more and more. We're getting into the iReady math benchmark performance overview. And so what I'm going to do for this portion of the presentation is, I'll go over the math portion. It's the same thing for ELA, so I won't break down the chart for those for essence of time. So what this chart is showing us is the national norm. The last national normed assessment data available that's valid is from the 18-19 school year, because as you know, I was going to say the Panini Press, the pandemic. The 1920 school year, those data points are not as valid, of course, and then 1921, they found that a lot of students did not perform and produce valid data. And so that's the last norm reference that we have is from the 18-19 year. 2023 to 2024 gave us the national year to date, and then the district is the column that's at the furthest right. And so what we see is that we've got 38% of our students 3 or more grade levels below, whereas The national norm in 2018, 2019 was 11%. Then last year was 17%. Students that are 2 or more grade levels below, 25% for Oak Park, 18% nationally, and then previously 2018, 2019, 14%. And then you see Oak Park has 35% 1 grade level below, whereas the national average, 47% is 1 grade level below. And in 2018, 2019, 49% below. And that's really important to highlight because we've actually decreased a significant number of students that were 2 or more grade levels. And so now the focus is for those students that are, we want to continue to decrease our red, but we also want to decrease our yellow and increase our green. That's the whole point of that. And the same for year-to-year placement. We have 2021, 2022, 2023. I wanted to make sure to share historical data because we previously used another assessment platform. So now that we're in the 3rd year of iReady, how have our students performed over the course of 3 years? And this is typical for the time of year that the students are assessing. They have 38% 3 or more grade levels, 25% 2 or more grade levels, 35% 1 grade level below, and then the remaining mid or above grade level, and also early on grade level. So one of the major areas of focus for us is really doing a deep dive on who those students are in the yellow, who those students are in the lighter red, moving them closer to the yellow, moving them closer to the green, and really targeting intervention for the students that are in that dark red. And something funny is happening here on my screen. But this information is grades 9 through 12 for mathematics. iReady, so it gives you the placement from fall of 2022 and fall of 2023. And iReady doesn't offer normed reference data, so I just pulled directly from the platform how our students perform year to year at the specifically at the high school level 9 through 12. So that's what this chart is highlighting. And then I have norm performance data that has changed over year. So we're looking at, I've gotten questions previously about students in cohorts. So this is cohorted data of students that, and that's really important to highlight during this presentation, that we are a school of choice. We do have, a significant, transient community, year to year, in particular when we get into the secondary grade levels. And so we are really looking at cohort data as much as possible. Who are those students that have been at Oak Park K through 8? Who are those students who have been K through 12? And then so on for those students who have come in for grades 9 through 12, assessing them as soon as possible to know what are the supports that they may need and what historical data do we have at our fingertips, what might be in their student records to support us with getting them on track for college and career readiness and beyond. So that's what these particular slides are highlighting. And what it will look like is, let's say current grade 2. The best way to read this is if you look at current grade 2. In the fall of 21-22, those students were in kindergarten. In the fall of 2022-2023, that's 1 year of, now they're in 1st grade, 1 year later. In the spring of 22-23, they were 1st graders. And in the fall of 23-24, that's where they are now as current 2nd graders. And that's how to read the chart for each grade level. So for instance, 5th grade, in the fall of 21-22, they would have been in 3rd grade all the way up until now. And so we really wanted to be intentional about showing normed reference data for a cohort of students that have consistently been with Oak Park schools. And what this is showcasing is that they have performed at this year to year, if you want them to be at the 50th percentile or higher. So for the students that were in kindergarten in 21-22, this is sharing that they were at the 23rd percentile, so they performed better than 23% of the students at grade level in that year, and so on for each of the charts. So I provided this information for both math and also ELA, and they're fairly comparable, with ELA doing a little bit better. I also wanted to make sure too, so I'm not going to go over this particular slide for reading. It's the same thing of showing national norm from 1819 last year and our district, so it can be interpreted, everybody knows how to interpret it. And then the same thing, the placement for high school, where they placed last year and the year before for grades 9 through 12. And then again, cohorted data of students who, from second grade all the way up, how they've performed over the course of 3 years. And then I'm going into the math and science proficiency outcomes. So this is College Board and MSTEP. And here what we have is, and I also want to note that we haven't had comprehensive proficiency data up until this year. And even last year, the state of Michigan was not able to provide SGP, which is student growth performance, where we're able to compare students' ELA performance and math performance in grades 3, 4, and 5 due to not enough students either not testing or validity of knowing that this is valid to showcase their proficiency. So this is the first year that we're actually able to really see over time how our students are performing since the pandemic. So this, I wanted to include historical data from 2017, well before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after. So if we focus here, you'll see that third grade in 2021 for math, 13.4% of our students met proficiency. Last year, 17.5% met proficiency, so we had a gain of 4.1%. And then the same goes on and on for each grade. Fourth grade last year, or the year before last, we had 9.6% meeting proficiency. In the spring of 2023, we had 15%. So we had 5.4% or more. And as a district, that is very difficult to accomplish 5% growth or more in proficiency. And so each year, what we want to do is double what those, it's already difficult to make 5%, but the fact that we did that, if we get that to 10%, that increases the number of students that are at grade level, which then increases the number of students that are college and career ready. Fifth grade, we did have a drop, 13.1%, and then in the spring of 2023, 9.5%. With a net loss of negative 3.6. And then for grades 6 through 7, we have 2.2% were proficient, and that decreased to 1.7%. Seventh grade, 4.9%, and there was a net loss of negative 2.4, worth 2.5% of our students meeting proficiency. So we do have a ways to go. And I'll cover there's a few things. This is the data raw and uncut. We provided the board with raw data, but also how our students ended up performing, and a variety of things that happened over the course of the year, and things that we're doing now, not only to rectify, but to best support with hiring, to best support with making sure curricular resources are in place if they were not in place, to also best support with tutoring, after-school programming, academic intervention. And so I know I'll share some of that at the end of the slide, but as we go through the data, I wanted overall district data, but also just where are we by grade level and what we're going to do to perform better, support better. In years prior, I hadn't provided science and social studies proficiency data. I didn't have the valid data needed, but this last year I do. And so I have science MSTEP and social studies MSTEP, which is assessed for students in grades 5, 8, and 11. And so we have, for fifth grade science, in 21-22 it was 8.9%, 22-23 it's 10.4%, a 1.5% gain. And so as we go through each of these charts, that's something that, along with my counterpart, Mr. Kwame Stevens, we're looking at this data by grade level, by classroom, by building, who's the teacher, what supports are in place, what are we going to do to create curriculum teams, and planning around supporting not only for math and ELA, but science and social studies across all grade levels. So I'm moving into ELA and social studies, MSTEP and College Board proficiency outcomes. For third grade ELA, we had 13.4% of our students performing at proficiency. and last year we had 17.5, and then 9.6, 15% last year, so a net gain of 5.4. And then so on. Fifth grade, we had 13.1% in 21-22. It then decreased to 9.5, which is a decrease of negative 3.6. And I can go off and share out numbers and data and all of it, and I'll continue. But I do want to input, take into consideration making sure that we have students staffed at a particular grade level for the entire year. That's something that we have a better consistency, we have more consistency with that, and I do think the HR team, the entire HR team, and in particular, Aaliyah Fenderson, with the supports of that, and also the school building leaders around hiring, around onboarding teachers, and just welcoming as many teachers as possible, and like making them feel a part of the Oak Park community, because we need consistency for our students. It shows in these areas as well. For ELA, I shared proficiency data for grades 6 and 7. I shared the same for social studies, MSTEP proficiency data. Again, students in grades 5, grade 8, and grade 11 take the social studies MSTEP. We have 2.5% showcase proficiency in 21-22, 2.9% at the 5th grade level in spring of 2023. In the 8th grade, 2.4%. It was pretty, even as you look at this chart, it's been, for the most part, there's some gaps and there's some highlights, but for the most part, year to year, there hasn't really been that much change. But it's important for us to have these conversations, show it out in public, have conversations behind the scenes with our teachers or staff, do curriculum review, do curriculum audits, figure out what we're piloting, what we're not, what training are we sending to our teachers, and really looking at the data, not from years ago, but just last year, what happened, what's going on, and are our students ready for the world? So we're moving into that direction as much as possible, and the data is where it's at. We're going up. We have to. College Board Assessment proficiency outcomes. We wanted to make sure to showcase, and this will help with our buildings as well, what percentage of our students are advanced, what percentage are not proficient, partially proficient, and proficient. And so if we look, we see that from 22-23, where we were year to year. I did this for grades 9. I also did this for grades 10. And then SAT. And so we see that for SAT, we have year to year a number of our students who increased in proficiency and decreased not proficiency. So there's been a 7% decrease in students not being proficient. The inverse of that is we have close to 10% of students that increased on those SATs, and that's a pretty big deal. That's not a small feat. So that's where we landed. I shared a couple of the areas for where we are now and moving forward. Mr. Stevens and I are revamping the mission and vision for teaching and learning and sharing that district-wide very soon. Of course, with the approval of Mr. Abdulahad, around just making sure that our principals are supported around that mission and vision, because they'll be carrying it out, but also that our staff hears from the Office of Teaching and Learning. These are what the expectations are and what the bar is of high expectations at the district level. We are going to be moving towards standards-based grading. We will have an increase focused on formative assessments and the formative assessment cycle. So those are the intermittent checks for student learning and understanding. Developing curriculum leadership teams. Doing even more work with content area leads and grade area leads, which are our department leads across the district. Continued K-12 intervention groups, tutoring, small group instruction, district-wide professional development, and I'd like to add that we have the early release times on Wednesdays, also to take, tailored time to look at not really just looking at this data at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of year, but consistently throughout the school year, where our students are, who the students are, do they have an IEP, are they English language learners, did they endure, needing McKinney-Vento, homeless student? What wraparound services are needed? And really triaging the supports that we're putting in place so the students get it as rapidly as possible to make positive change. Family and community engagement, pre-K-12 events, they're off the charts every single month when we have events, and that's a huge shift. Even in the year before last, the level of engagement that we've had with our families, even including tonight, the Parent Advisory Committee appointing parents, to participate in that. That's a huge thing for our district. Also, STEM teachers at the elementary level, K through 5, making sure that now it's not just you're teaching social studies, ELA, math, and science at the elementary level, making sure that at each elementary school we are starting off right out of kindergarten. You have a science class dedicated all the way to 5th grade. You have a science class dedicated to, STEM, technology, and exposing you to the science Common Core. We also have still with our focus of 6 through 12 cross-disciplinary instructional focus. So that's the work that happens in ELA, how does that showcase in math? The work that happens in math, how does that showcase in science? And then the same for social studies. Still continuing with our school culture and climate initiatives, our Deans of Culture, positive intervention supports. We've added on capturing kids' hearts, pre-K-5, and there's an interest also, in other grade levels who've had an interest in knowing more. There's siblings that are at the elementary schools that are doing this. The older siblings, there's an interest, so we would like to do more SEL supports and programming. K-12, hopefully one day with capturing kids' hearts. Hero Circle, and which is specifically at the grades 3 through 6 level, and continued support for our instructional leadership teams. And I'm leaving it off with believing in our students and believing in our teachers while supporting their success. I say thank you. Open to questions.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the board? Or comments?
Yes, I have a couple questions. For the sense of belonging, how is that measured? I know we've talked about it in the past, but remind me how do we measure for sense of belonging?
So we use a platform called Panorama Education, and it's aligned to CASEL standards for social emotional learning. There's 2 assessments that are given to students, grades 3 through 12, and then we have a district-created assessment through our school psychologist, which was then vetted at the county level to make sure that the questions are age-appropriate. So that's a different assessment. But for the Panorama assessment, there's 5 criteria under sense of belonging, and then there's another for student overall well-being. And so students are assessed 3 times a year on that assessment, and then that gives us an idea of, based on their sense of belonging, are there other issues that could be going on with their families, with their own interpersonal, and how can we use that information, share it with our Deans of Culture, share it with families, and also the social work teams. So there's special education social workers and general education social workers, and they can look at the different domains for what the assessment determines is, a student who may be in crisis, a student who may really, is sharing very honestly, like they don't feel engaged, they don't feel connected. They may have, it's not a mental health screener, so we also want to be very careful with that, but it is an indicator for better supports for students who may be in need of those kinds of supports.
So there's no general programming. It would be specific to students who tested on the assessment. Like, do we have any general programming that's ongoing that would increase one's feeling of sense of belonging?
The biggest area would be for positive behavior intervention supports, and so that's programming. And not only that, but with Capturing Kids' Hearts, that would be an example of a social emotional program. Hero Circles, social emotional program. At the secondary level, that's an area that we're vetting, and that we're, the very next step is sometimes it just gets down to basics. Find the names of those students. Who is an adult that is just assigned to that student, just to check in with them and see how are they doing, how's it going, who's their counselor. And the thing with that assessment is that students are also sharing there's there can be open-ended areas where students are sharing, like, this is the kind of support that I would want and need, right? The best way to then triangulate that data is right with their attendance. If they're not coming into school, what's that group of students that's in that third, bottom group of students? What specific programming do they need for incentives to come to school? So the buildings at the secondary level have been doing a lot of cultural activities, like school, spirit and things to just
Yeah.
entice students to come about, yeah.
Okay. And also, there seems to have been a dip. I know we just coming off the pandemic, but any thoughts behind why some of the numbers, quite a few of the numbers, decreased from 21, 22 to now? Any theories?
A couple of theories. One theory is, and I don't like to stand and present and be punitive towards students. So I won't do that. But we're a community school, right? Like, we are a community school, so we have students who come in from different communities into our school. And they may leave, they may come back, but attendance, enrollment, that's one indicator in terms of how to best support a student at any given time of the year. Staff shortages is another area. I will attribute parts of the pandemic to that, but previous to the pandemic, we're not that far off. When I first came to Oak Park, certain grade levels that did not have curriculum in place at all, no curricular resource in place at all. So identifying curricular resources and working with really phenomenal teachers on not only identifying the resource, but professional development. Implementing a new curricular resource takes time. Piloting the resource, implementing professional development, collaborating. Like, it's not something that's overnight, and you do typically need about 5 to 7 years. We're just on a fast track. That's just what it is. We need to be on a fast track. It's students' lives. That's how we look at it. It's like, it's students' lives. When they're here with us, wherever they go, we want to best support them, not only with the curricular resource, but pedagogy, sound instruction, making sure our teachers feel supported and stay in Oak Park. That's a huge component. Our parents are our biggest partners in the work as well. Do our parents understand the report card? Do they understand standards? Do they understand how to support their child at home? Are we hand in hand with them? Are we in partnership with them and not excluding? Like, that's really the game changer for a lot of the looking at the panorama assessment for those students that showcase sense of belonging. They typically have high parent engagement. Those same parents, not only coming in, but not only supporting and representing for their child, but all children across that grade level. That's the best that at this time, that I'll end with when it comes to that, is not only parent engagement, identifying curricular resources, support for staff training, and these conversations, like just getting real about this is where we're at, this is what this data means, and what it looks like in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, this is what it translates by the time they take that SAT. So what are our learning progressions?
And one last question, just so I'm clear, like on page 5, on slide 5, by June 2025, we want to be at 32%. So we're at 6% right now?
Yes, and please know that the MyKIP goals can be changed. When we originally created these goals, what we wanted at that time was, let's meet at the very least state level. So if at the state, this is where our students are and we're below, let's get to be at state level, and then from there, shoot beyond that. So that's where those numbers come from.
I think that's great and we should be, but that's a long way from there, so. That's it.
Any other questions from members of the board?
Respectfully. So looking at these numbers, based on the iReady, like mathematically, we have 98% of students that are 3 grade levels below or lower, and for reading it's 89%. So would you apply the same question, like Larminda, Trustee Davis, is it parent participation that you need? What is it going to take to try and help these kids to boost? Is it after-school tutoring? Is it more support for I understand we have the early dismissals for professional development, but these numbers, sorry, are concerning.
Mhm.
98% is a significant number. I mean, that's the majority of this district that are at least 3 levels below for mathematics. So what is necessary to get them to get that boost?
So one area in terms of instruction is when a student is 3 grade levels or more below, not giving them work that is actually 3 or more grade levels below, and presenting them with the work that is actually on grade level, and providing differentiation and scaffolding techniques. So that is in districts that have been successful with this, is exposing their students to grade level work. That's what you're going to be assessed on. So if you're 3 grade levels below, I do have to provide you, I don't want to frustrate you, right? As a child, I'm not trying to frustrate you by having you not understand, the work that's in front of you, of course, but you should be exposed to some grade level material, some grade level work. As a district, really honing in on our pacing. What are we teaching over the course of a year? Are our students exposed to a variety of literature, a variety of texts? What are we doing to support not only our families, and so they have a better understanding of what these scores mean, what iReady means, what proficiency means, what student growth means, and then even having workshops and collaboration, which we do have, but having more of an academic focus is one area that is sure to support our students. So, but I would say that one key area is, it's not just about having the curricular resource there, and it's not going to change radically, but at least providing grade level material, grade standards level material, so that students have that exposure, and measuring their abilities to those standards, not only the diagnostic, not only the MSTEP proficiency, but the material that's in front of them each day.
We had these realistic conversations with parents to tell them that your child is 3 grade levels below, is struggling, and is not meeting the standard. Are we having these heart-to-heart conversations with parents to let them know where their child is directly, one at a time, to let them know where they are, in hopes that those parents will then assist us to bring their children up to snuff? Are we having these conversations?
So we do have data chat conversations, and the way the parent-teacher conferences was set up was, the intention of that was for them to be able to just, like, by the time parent-teacher conferences takes place, that you have diagnostic data, you have that information. One of the areas that we're changing for pre-K-5 and then moving into the secondary level is how the report card is set up, how the progress reports are set up, that they're parent-friendly, that there's language, providing information about this is how your child is performing, these are the supports, these are the areas of concern. Not only comments about that, but parent meetings, where I know specifically at the elementary schools, I can speak to it a bit more, but I know at the secondary level, they do have data chats with the students and data chats with the parents, and they have various events after school where they get it. They're not gonna go into individual, conversations with each teacher, but if there's a Title I meeting and it's a parent engagement event around that, they'll explain information, so parents have a better understanding.
So just so I understand, there's not one-on-one conversations with someone at the school with a parent on purpose, not parent-teacher conferences, not, other times when you might see the parents, but a conversation that is built solely for this purpose, to say, hey, look, let's talk about this data because your child isn't where they need to be. Is that happening?
That is happening, but what can happen is it can happen with even greater intentionality. That can happen with greater programming from teaching and learning around incremental times of the year. This is just what we're doing district-wide. We're having student-led conferences where students are able to understand and share their data, but as a district, incrementally, this is like when we have curriculum night in the spring, that's another opportunity, but that's at the district level, right? At each, with counselors, with social workers, with your teachers, like incrementally throughout the course of the year, these are the students that are in danger of failing, and this is what it looks like. They're in need of improvement of this particular area, this is what it looks like, and giving our teachers tools and resources to have that piece of parent engagement. That's an area that you're lifting. That's what I'm hearing is something that we could do better on a more consistent basis, sharing resources to support our families with that.
Yeah, I'd be curious, I'm sorry.
No.
I'd be curious to know to what extent we have reached the parents of each one of these children and provided that feedback to the parents, and then put something in place to help the parents help their children, or to help the children with their parent, whatever that looks like. What percentage are we reaching to that level where the parents are engaged and we brought them in on this, letting them know the outcome if nothing else is done. If I know, in 4th grade or 3rd grade or whatever grade early on, if my kid isn't where they need to be, then personally, I can't speak for every parent, but then I can personally say, hey, I got a lot of work to do to get you where you need to be by the time you get to 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And I'm committed to doing that because I don't want to see my kid as 3 grade levels or more behind.
I know Trustee Page, she's gonna jump in real soon with this, but I will say that, that I can't say that that's not happening. That is happening. That is happening.
Will we have some sort of, report back so that we can hear how that went?
But what I'm saying is what can happen on an even more robust scale, because that does happen specifically at the elementary level and at the middle school level. It does happen at the high school level. It's individualized with teachers. So I don't want to make a sweeping statement and say it doesn't happen, but there can be intentional programming of how we do that incrementally. And then there's data behind that as well, and then we're able to share that out based on this. Like, this is the percentage of parents that came in for this incremental check. Here's the outcome. Here's the information that was shared with them. We can get feedback from them. This is, the supports that they say they need even more from the district and from their teachers and building. And now we have this information we can then share. With just greater intentionality and programming is what I'm saying. If we did that, then I could share more about the actual results. It's happening, but we're not measuring for that at this time.
All right, Trustee Smith.
Yeah, so in my experience, it is measurable. It's measurable when we have these parent-teacher conferences, and you look at that list of the teachers that have visited, the parents that have visited these teachers. I've experienced it myself. I've gone in to see some of these teachers, and the outcome of parents, the number of parents that have actually come to participate, and I'm talking about me coming in the latter part of the evening to see the number of parents that actually come in and signed in on that sheet shows the amount of participation. I'm just saying, it's always been a concern of mine, and at several meetings I've always said that parental parent is key. All right, so I'm an extrovert. I'm always up and I'm moving. And when it came to my children, I'm there. I'm Johnny on the spot. Everybody doesn't have to be at that level, but at least when you find out that your child's grades are degrading or it's not up to snuff, do something about it. The parent-teacher conferences, we have minimal participation. I say that almost, I was saying that, it sounded like a broken record saying to me, this parental involvement is key. See, so I'm just, I'm going to speak on behalf of a lot of the teachers that they're there. And it would be a travesty if they weren't giving out those notifications that the children were doing, subpar,
So to your point, I'm speaking about something besides parent-teacher conferences. Parent-teacher conferences, you get one-on-one time, you get like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You might get 10 if you're lucky. If most parents aren't coming, maybe you get 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about something besides that. To sit there and set it up where we can have a half-hour discussion, and if we doing 1 or 2 of those a day, throughout the course of the year, that's what we have, whatever it takes. But now I'm going beyond parent-teacher conferences because the parents you probably need to be talking to, in many cases, not all, are not coming to parent-teacher conferences. So, these people need to know that your child, while maybe continually passed, is not meeting the standard at the state level. They might be meeting our standards where they can get C's or whatever and D's and still make it to the next grade, but beyond that, they're way behind where they need to be. And, maybe, I don't have all the answers, but I'm asking, and if you say you can track that, I'd like to see that, what the outcome is of those types of things. Trustee Madison.
Okay, so I'm coming from a different perspective because I am a parent. So I get this stuff all the time. of all kids. So I literally just put it up on my phone. I have a literal graph of both my kids and where they are. It's not like they're not sending it out. I'm telling you, they sending it out every time. I got it before parent-teacher conference. I got it at parent-teacher conference, and it's like the teachers are literally in contact with us all day. We can text them, we can send them a message. The parents of these children have known that their children have been behind for years. Since they've been back from the pandemic. Seriously. When I first started, I told you guys, Ms. Ford, she's a teacher at Key, she showed us a graph, and it was of where all the students are. And this was last year, right? It was 4 students on grade level, or at grade level. The rest were at kindergarten, and this was 3rd grade, right? So those same children are still, I'm sure, 3-4 grades behind. The parents know. They get this information all the time. So it's a team effort at this point. And it starts with the parents. They have to be involved. You know what I'm saying? Those are probably the parents, and we keep downplaying the pandemic. That was crucial, to these children, very. We have to remember that. They were not in school. They could not get decent learning. They was learning in front of a computer. Who was really paying attention? You know what I'm saying? We got to be realistic. So coming back to school, a lot of them missed, I think they said kindergarten is the most important grade, or 1st grade, one of them. A lot of those kids who are 4th graders right now missed that year. So they don't know how to write. They don't know how to read. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. I worked with my children, but not everybody could. People were still going to work. People were still, some kids was home alone. So we have to remember that. They can't come back today and be on a grade level. So, like I said, it's graphs. I will show you right now. I got it. I took a picture. They letting us know how much more.
I'm not suggesting that they haven't shared the information broadly.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm suggesting is that one-on-one reach out to say, here's the norm, here's what it should be. And look, maybe what I'm asking for is just impossible. You can tell me
what's
that.
happening.
But one-on-one reach out to say, here's where your child is, and not a parent-teacher conference. Here's where your child is, here's where they should be. This is our plan to help your child. If you're going to help us do that, it will be helpful. That's where we have to try. And I heard what you said about the pandemic. I'm not poo-pooing the pandemic. I do understand that occurred. What I'm saying is that everybody knows it happened. We need to start finding ways to now come back and get those children where they need to be. I get that. But what beyond the norm are we doing to try to say, okay, your child was caught behind because of this, here's how we're going to get them where they need to be. That's what I'm asking. So I understand your point that the teachers have shared the data broadly, but it hits home a little more when someone, maybe not the teacher, when a counselor or someone calls me and says, well, that hasn't happened to me, but your child is not doing thus, and so. I about have a heart attack just by looking at my kids' grades every week. If you're below 93%, we got a problem.
Me too.
If you ain't got A's, we got a problem. So, but that's me. And if I get an email and it look like it's a problem, I'm emailing right back. So, but that's me. Everybody's not like that. And we just got to find ways, I think, to meet those people. Just my opinion. I mean, I'm not suggesting that based on what you have in place that people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. I'm just asking, is there more we can do? Is there more we can track? Anything we can do is better than, nothing. And I'm not saying you're doing nothing. I'm just saying that what more can we do? That's what I'm asking. And that's not to be answered here.
No, and even just this conversation, and I'm wrapping up, but this conversation, being real about that, what else can we do? What can we do? Let's do.
Yeah. Anything else from members of the board? All right, here none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Baptiste. We
Thank
go
you.
to reports. We have one from Superintendent Abdullah had 6A.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, President Alvin. I will say that last year we started having conversations with parents about retention, and that was the first time that the principals were informed that they were allowed to have those conversations about retention. So I know those conversations started happening, and they need to happen more frequently, like after card marking. So there's always more, and I agree, just listening, I'm jotting down ideas as you guys are conversating, because there is always more that we could do as a group, as a community. So I appreciate that presentation by Assistant Superintendent Baptiste. Thank you, Mayor, for visiting us. I want to report on a few items, and I'm sure some of you guys will talk about it in your closing remarks, but prior to next meeting, we're going to have, we have an operating millage ballot language about our replacement restoration coming up for certain precincts in Oak Park. And I want to report that this ballot proposal does not impact homeowners and does not increase residents' property taxes. So this is for certain precincts in Oak Park that's totally unrelated. This renewal and restoration operating millage helps us, and it helps fund the operations of the district. And typically it's done every 10 years or so, and so it just happened to be around the same time with the cities. But it's completely separate and unrelated to what the city's doing, and it does not. So I appreciate board members that are out there posting on social media, so I do thank you. I know this board has been very much active in answering questions and shooting down misinformation, so I appreciate that. And I want to chime in sometimes, but then I'm hesitant because of my role, but I do appreciate the board's efforts in that. Second, our audit that was scheduled for today had to be pushed back because they weren't ready. There were some hiccups and some corrective action that we had to work with the auditors on, and some corrections that we had to make to some documents, and we had to do some journal entries to correct some things, to align some items. The auditors are now set to present on November 27th, and I've been keeping you in the loop weekly on that. Because they're taking more time, it is going to come at a cost. They have to bill us for the hours that typically they schedule 1 week, but we've gone past that week, and so they are billing us. So it is going to cost us a little bit of money for the support that we're getting, and with the extra time that they're working on the weekends to make sure that we get our stuff ready. Finally, we have a major event coming up on October 28th. Major event. Trunk or treat. Okay? Major event. Trustee Clark has made it a point to make sure that I highlight that it is a major event that is in collaboration with the board and the district and the city. Everyone has made it a point to make sure that I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Clark so she could put a plug in it, but that is October 28th, Trustee Clark.
How much?
You are already. I'll be brief, I promise, I won't take long. No, so we've been working with Marilee from Oak Park Recreation.
she kind of found me at the farmer's market and was like, hey, we're doing trunk or treat, you want to do it? And I'm like, okay, sure. Because apparently we got really great compliments from all of the makeup and hoopla that we did last year. So it's going to be October 28th, as Angel has said. It will be at the 11 Mile Water Tower District, so the big parking lot right behind Berkeley Coffee, from 1 to 3. Flyers have been passed out on the elementary level, so we've been really trying to get the little ones, because the older ones probably don't really care much. But I'm very honored and proud that Angel has allowed me to represent the district. I will be set up with my husband and my son, and I'm not gonna say our theme, but it'll be nice. It may not be as elaborate as last year, but it'll be a nice. And if you would like to contribute candy, I can give you my Cash App or my Venmo.
How much?
You too can contribute some candy. We have 8,000 pieces of candy because we ran out last year. We had over 1,000 children show up that we were not prepared for. So we may have gone a little bit overboard, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So
I just need a number.
you tell me.
I'll take your cash out.
I mean, do you want me to tell you how much I spent on candy?
Not particularly.
Because I can show you the pictures.
How much do you want?
We'll save it for after.
Well,
Okay.
I'll give you my Cash App. I got
There you go.
For 1 to 3. Right, you said from the times.
Yeah, I said time. So it's 1 to 3. We'll be set up towards the back of the parking lot, but we'll have the Oak Park tent thing, so it shouldn't be too hard to find us, and we're looking forward to the event.
I'll make it up here.
Good job.
Me too. Oh,
For you.
for me?
Yeah.
I'm honored.
Covered in
It'll
costume.
be. It'll
I don't know if you're gonna recognize
I will
it
be in full costume, full makeup. My husband will be in costume. I don't want to drop any kids because I don't want anybody to steal my
I'll be dressed
thing.
as Al, but
I worked really hard, a lot of attention to detail, so it should be really nice. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
good
forward
job.
to it.
thank you
I
for
worked
all,
very hard.
thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the last thing that I do want to report out is that I am appreciative of the board, in particular the board president, for reaching out just to see how we could support our students regarding that incident. I know I've received several emails and texts from how are you doing, you know, and everything is appreciated. I know the board president constantly just checks, hey, how are the kids doing, and is active on ensuring that, and it's above and beyond what you guys do. It is obvious that you go above and beyond the call of duty. I know with Trustee Davis text me, I just landed, what do you need? How can I, so I appreciate it, and it's noted, and I turn it over to President Alvin. That's all I have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Superintendent Dooley, have any questions of him? Hearing now, we'll go to public participation. We come to the part of the meeting where the public has an opportunity to address the board. If it so desires, public participation is one-way communication in which members of the public are asked to address the full board with the understanding that board members will not be able to respond. Trustee Davis, would you like to provide the public comment guidelines?
Because the Oak Park Board of Education values public meetings, not just meetings in public, we welcome public comment on school issues. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner, with due process for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by public comments. The public comment portion of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a school board member or school district employee that disrupts the order of the meeting and are totally unrelated to the manner in which the member or employee performs his or her duties. Speakers should be aware that if statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, such comments may result in legal liability. Most comments can be concisely stated in 3 minutes, and the board respectfully asks that comments remain focused on the topic or issue and not be directed at specific personnel or board members.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board? Any members at all? Going 3 times. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. We'll go to our action items. Action item 8A, approval of Oak Park High School marching band travel to Wilberforce, Ohio. Trustee
You said
Clark,
second.
Trustee Clark, are we ready, Trustee Clark?
I'm always ready.
Okay.
Always ready. Resolved that the Oak Park Board of Education approve the high school marching band travel to Wilberforce, Ohio. The trip includes participation in a competition to perform at Wilberforce, Ohio. The departure is scheduled for 6 a.m. on 10/28/2023 and will return at 9 p.m.
Motion made by Trustee Clark, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Smith. Any questions on the motion? When? Please call the roll.
Clark,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Madison,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you, appreciate y'all.
No problem.
Safe travels.
Safe travels and
When?
And
when?
Have fun. Gotcha, thank you.
item 8B, approval of grounds care and snow removal services bid. We talked this through at the last meeting. Trustee Smith, you want to read it?
Yes. Resolved that the Oak Park Board of Education approve the administration recommendation to award the bid for grounds care and snow removal services to RNA Facilities Management of Ann Arbor, Michigan. The lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $143,642. These services will be paid for through proceeds from the district general fund, and the bid award will be for 1 year with an optional extension of up to 2 additional years.
Motion made by Trustee Smith, there's a second.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Davis. Quick question on the extension for up to 2 years. Is that something that we would have to come back here and approve? Is that something that we would not?
No, you would be approving it here. It just would be our discretion to work with them as far as, if they're doing a good job, we want to reward that and extend it to another year. Unless you feel it necessary to come back to the board. This is the first time we're going to a third-party vendor like this, so we want to make sure that it's working properly for the district.
Okay. I'm curious what happens if in your extension, the price goes up?
Price would be up, I would have to come to the board.
That's
It would
what
be
I heard.
about, because
So-
it would be actually more likely a
Change.
3% or so, really not a cost of living, but that
Inflation.
extension.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. So it will come back to the board though?
We would-
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Griffiths, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Madison.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We'll go to item 8C, Parent Advisory Committee, PAC selection. Trustee Clark,
Would you like me to read the description as well as the...
whatever makes you happy, Trustee Clark.
This makes me happy.
Okay.
Being a parent of a special needs child, this makes me happy.
Okay.
Description, Parent Advisory Committee PAC selection. Oak Park Schools has achieved a huge milestone under the leadership of Ms. Alicia Bird, Director of Special Education. The district has identified 2 parents to serve on the Parent Advisory Committee, which is required under Michigan Administration Rules for Special Education, MARS. Resolved that the Oak Park Board of Education approve the administration's recommendation to appoint Kendra Hughes, parent of a student at Pepper Elementary, and Nalo Pitas, parent of a student at Oak Park High School, to serve on the Parent Advisory Committee, which is required under the Michigan Administrative Rules for Special Education, MARS, for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years.
Motion made by Trustee Clark. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Davis. Are there any questions or any comments on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Griffiths, call the roll.
Clark,
Yes.
Madison,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
and Davis.
Yes.
Okay, good, the motion passes, and we'll go to item 9A, information items, high school interior painting bid. Mr. Phillips, I assume this is you.
Yeah, what this is the, one of the goals for the superintendent this year, upcoming year, is for the full painting of the interior of the high school. We actually have had sections of the building painted already, which includes the gym, the 2 labs that we had, and a couple of the classrooms that were in pretty poor shape that we had corrected. This is for the rest of the building. It's gonna be for all the hallways, it's gonna be for all the classrooms, the offices, everything really except for storage rooms and for, like boiler rooms and such. So this is for the full gambit. Now, the reason I'm bringing it today is because we do want to start over Thanksgiving break. We would like to get it going from there. So in looking at how the board meetings were structured, if we present this as an information item now, we can actually have it hopefully approved at the next board meeting. The good thing is that we did have a really good turnout. We had 20 different companies come and do the walkthrough with us. So hopefully we're going to have some aggressive pricing on that as well. So we'll present that at the next board meeting.
Just out of curiosity, as we start to beautify the school, are there any plans to put in new drop ceiling tile throughout the building or anywhere in the building?
That would really constitute a part of another bond. That was actually supposed to be encompassed in the bond, the 2021 bond, but again, because of conversations we've had before regarding how much we lost due to COVID and due to supply chain, a lot of the aesthetic work was taken off the board. I don't recall if ceiling tiles were part of that. We could perhaps...
But those are simple things that we address. Those simple drop ceilings, I mean, just patching them up and sprucing it up, you don't need a bond work for
Right.
that, so.
If we're gonna do
You
the
walk
full...
down the hall,
Right.
that's what the ceiling is.
Those are
right?
drop ceilings, so those are easily replaceable, not expensive. We have a sinking fund, we absolutely are addressing it.
We could take them on a piece at a
Okay, so
time.
yeah,
Right.
This is out of sinking.
No, you don't need that. You don't need that for that.
This is out of sinking fund as well.
This one-
These are, this is.
No,
a single-
yeah.
Yeah, this would...
This is just normal upkeep that we're trying just to get caught up.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant the whole school, but if there's certain sections, we can do sections at a time.
Even if we're talking about the whole school, you need a bond for that?
You don't.
That's a
Dan?
big expense.
Dan, you don't need a bond for that.
I'll let y'all work that out. Any questions for Mr. Phillips?
So
Go ahead, Justice.
So we're trying to approve this bid, to put this out to bid by next meeting, right?
Yeah, we already put it out to bid.
Okay.
We're asking to approve the results at the next bid.
We're just bringing it up just to let you know that the bids, we had people showing up. We're gonna scrutinize all the stuff and we will give you a recommendation on the 13th.
Yeah, some notification posted.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move on then to 10, Board Administration Communication, and communications from members of the administration, from members of the board. I have a few. Based on what we heard tonight from Superintendent Abdullah, last week I spoke with a Mr. Michael Roca, a senior manager with Yo and Yo, which has been retained to audit the district's finances. As you heard earlier, there were some issues. He indicated to me that we will have some findings. Findings are not good. Amongst the issues, there were bank reconciliations that were not done. Some issues with entries relative to federal receivables and expenses. There was a situation where ESSER funds receivables were double booked by $700,000. So there was more coming, and Superintendent Abdullah has been transparent with us on letting us know that there have been issues, but pretty glaring issues. And so as a result, the audit will not be done on time. And the worst part of, well, there are a couple of things, but the expectation is that we probably won't receive our November payment until later because of the delay. It will still get it, but it'll be later. And he said he was being kind, that we were gonna owe some more money. Yo and Yo Mr. Welka estimates that we will end up coming out double the amount we would have paid due to the fact that we were not ready for this audit. So, I don't remember do we know what that number was? The number for regular number, he estimated somewhere around 30,000.
I saw in the check registry 38,
So then if
give or take.
you multiply that by 2, we're talking somewhere, around 70K, maybe higher. And so, that's the worst of it, but still nonetheless, issues and for what it's worth, he has complete faith in you. So, lead us out of the abyss.
Every time I get us there.
And let's not let this happen anymore. So, if there's something that we need to do on this end to assist, short of us coming in here and adding up receivables and,
Big breaks.
let us know, so that we can give you the support that you need, but let's make this happen. These findings are not normal. Though he did indicate that there are districts that are having issues because the knowledge has gone out of the door with so many people who have retired, during COVID. We expect that when we have someone who's in these roles, that it's going to be taken care of. So, he got faith in you, I got faith in you, I'm sure the rest of the board got faith in you, so thank you. We also heard from Superintendent Abdullah that, we had 2 students who were injured, Friday, October 6th, obviously, and we've all heard about it by now. I'm told the 2 students are out of the hospital. We reached out to both families and are working on a care package for both. And so it's my plan to attend with Mr. Abdullah a home visit once both families have agreed to make that happen. And so, we'll keep you updated on that, but certainly want those students to know that we're there in our thoughts. We're thinking of them, we think about them every day. I've used this before. I wish I didn't have to, but the quote before from a movie called City Hall. Al Pacino was in the movie. I'm an Al Pacino fan. And in which he said something to the effect of, if a sparrow dies in the city, it might have been him, I think he was quoting LaGuardia, but if a sparrow dies in Central Park, I feel responsible. And if something happens to one of our students, I feel responsible. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that this whole board is in support of our students and cares very much for our students and wants nothing but the safest environment for our students. So I just want to note that. Finally, we also heard from he stole all my thunder. Superintendent Abdullah that the district is asking voters to approve a replacement and restoration of the current non-homestead operating millage. Non-homestead. So for the school district can't, but we can as board members encourage voters to vote either before or on Tuesday, November 7th for the school ballot proposal operating millage. The proposal will not impact the taxes on owner-occupied homes in our district. That means if you own your own home, it won't impact you. You will not come out of a single extra dollar. Please vote yes. Thank you. Now, we can advocate for it. So, please vote yes. Thank you. Is there anything else from members of the board? Hearing none. We're at adjournment, and Trustee Davis, next meeting.
The next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Monday, November 13th, 2023, at 7 p.m. in the boardroom at the Administration Building.
Thank you, thank you. Please vote. I've already passed my ballot, so please vote. If nothing else, without objection, we'll pass a motion to adjourn the meeting by unanimous consent. Is there an objection to doing so? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned at 8:31. Thank you.